at the bottom of your screen. As I always say, at times you should just let the camera roll even during the break. Just take it all. Just take it all in stride. We have a WhatsApp message. Let's have it up on screen very quickly before we get back to the discussion. I think the Tanga are contradicting themselves. They don't know actually where to be on the BBI. On Mombasa rally, you saw them endorse the BBI. Days later, Bungoma senator, who was completely against it, endorsed the need for a referendum publicly. So confusion comes in right there. We have a tweet from @Humphrey001KE. He says, for the first time, I can see the Senate did a great job. This is about BBI, Humphrey says. We shall remove all corrupt government officials. Like we said, it's the front page of your standard. You can find it on page 4. I'll come to Dr. Halwale on this because you tried to have a different meeting as the BBI rally went on in your area. That didn't work out. But in Mombasa, everyone was for the BBI and for a referendum. When one viewer says that Tanga is confused because they're all over the place. First, they are not for it. Now they're for it. They weren't for a referendum. Now they're for it. What aren't you getting in this double political speak?
The rally you are referring to was meant, the stoppage of the rally that you are referring to was meant to save the face of the BBI Bukhungu. Because if it had gone on, I would have had a bigger rally than the one they had in Bukhungu. For the reasons that I didn't need money to bring people to the rally, the way they did in Bukhungu. Anyway, subsequently, 7 days later, we achieved what we wanted. But let me come to that headline. First and foremost, the man you're trying to say was speaking on our behalf by way of changing his position, i.e. the Senator of Bungoma, is not one of us. In fact, the Senator of Bungoma is one of the leaders from my region who were in Bukhungu. So they should have quoted somebody else like Didmus Barasa, or if they want an older person, they could have quoted me on what we had said. Let me tell you, if the hope of ODM was that you keep on pushing for a referendum until everybody comes on board so as to help them win the election in 2022, then they have taken a thorn, as they say in my local language, and stuck it inside their foot. Why? Because when their train reached Mombasa, they let out the cat, a very big cat. You think Uhuru is a fool? You think his family, everybody there is foolish? You think all Kikuyus are foolish? When Kingi then mispronounced or deliberately pronounced himself on how BBI was going to address the land injustice, he should have known that that is a double-edged sword. If you handle it the way they are foolishly suggesting in Mombasa, you are saying all the interests of the richest family in the country, the most powerful family in the country, i.e. Kenyatta family, should be thrown to the sea. You are saying all those Kikuyus who are in Peketoni and beyond should be brought back to Kiambu. So the issue of land, if that is what BBI wants to address, for God's sake, I don't have any piece of land outside Marinya. That is not the way to do it. Right. Yeah. Land issue is very emotive, and I can assure you, Jacoyo, from that day in Mombasa, you are on your own. If you had any friendship with Uhuru, it's gone. If you had any with his community, it's gone. You are not going to ask Uhuru to put his neck on the guillotine and ask another member of his own family to push the switch. If we must help Raila to become prime minister or president, then we cannot do it at the expense of all those innocent Kenyans who live in Peketoni. We must not do it at the expense of all the people who have worked very hard to invest in the Rift Valley and bought land genuinely, and who will be swept away by everybody if you handle the matter the way you're doing. Finally, somebody seems to suggest there that we don't know what we want in BBI. We are very clear. There are two BBIs. There is the BBI that was launched in Bomas, which the whole country is supporting. Then there is the BBI that ODM now wants to rewrite. You all remember very clearly that the reason why Atwoli, Joho, Orengo, Junet, even the delegates were screaming at Murkomen, it is because they had not gotten what they had wanted. They had wanted this all-powerful minister in that document. So they were angry, and they said as much. Secondly, the governors who were trying to push for, who are currently pushing for BBI to be amended, the one of Bomas, are the ones who are second-termers. They want to secure their future through the second BBI document, i.e. they want the regional governments. I can assure you, and those governors are not very imaginative, even if, God forbid, they were to push through the regional governments, a governor who has been a governor for 2 terms cannot get re-elected in this country. The voter is just waiting for them. In fact, I was telling people that this nonsense of my governor screaming at the top of his voice because he's the ODM vice chair, that he wants the third tier so that he has a chance, is going to immediately force me to move from running in Kakamega to run in the regional government so that the community has somebody who is going to remove him.
Let me come to Jacob on this as well, because if you talk about what has happened in Mombasa, what's to happen as you go to Nakuru, Kitui, moving on forth, the steering committee is trying to work to get the views with less political noise on there. And it seems like the referendum is happening
my brother,
right after July.
My brother, before you just take that mic, I wanted to plead on behalf of the people of Western Province. Right. Forgive me. We look so small that when these people came to Bukhungu, the only thing they talked about was that regional government, was that all-powerful prime minister, and they left our maize farmers at the mercy of FET. They left our sugarcane farmers. They left the fate of all our industries at the mercy of FET. Why? Why didn't they speak to the issue of the economic needs of the people of Western Province? Instead, they chose to have a huge rally in Bukhungu looking for a job for Raila. And they managed to force Mudavadi into it, because Mudavadi likes listening to some outdated old men like Atuoli, that if you are not in Bukhungu, you have no chance of becoming deputy prime minister. And the guy fell for it. Honorable
Video, I'll come to you, because even as we hear that, even before the steering committee had been gazetted, Senator Orengo had said that we're going to have a referendum this year, and people wondered where is he speaking from, with whose authority. But here we are now talking about this referendum being in July. Does it seem like this train is moving, whether Dr. Halwale is for it or not?
I think that ship left the dock about 2 months ago. I can tell you can't stop it. You know, and I sympathize with Bonnie when it rants like that on national television. It really shows what we need to change in politicians in this country. And we must make the laws favor the interests of the public. You know, when you say that you go to rally, looks like an ODM rally, that is an ODM rally. Orange Democratic Movement, this is a movement. This is where we began. ODM was born out of the 2005 referendum. Orange Democrat, we must keep moving, and we must keep correcting. Constitution is a working document. We must keep going there. You know that Bonnie can say, I was in Bukhungu. Now they are saying the people are not involved. Bukhungu, those were the people. That is the largest political rally I've ever seen. In fact, the one in Mombasa can go into it about 4 times. I was there. So when they say the people are not included, I don't know which people they are talking about. And those people, you can't pay them money. Those are literally hundreds of thousands of people. You can't pay them. In fact, I think it's an abuse to lawyers to keep coming here and say they were paid money to attend that rally. Number 2, when you say no farmers' issues were addressed, who is Halwale's boss? William Ruto was the Minister of Agriculture. Remember the maize saga? Remember the fertilizer? Who did I see yesterday supporting William Samoei Ruto? Kiunjuri. We are in this mess of agriculture. You know, it should be they should be talking where they are sitting, whether they are in church or in a bar. Those are the things they should be talking. We have driven Kenyans to poverty. It is in their house, and you know it. If you want to talk about agriculture and William Samoei Ruto, you must know that he comes from the North Rift, and you must know the suffering in the North Rift by farmers. And I'm surprised. Who imports sugar in this country? Who is these people? Who has been licensing them? The former minister, who is now an ambassador, look at the things he has done. He opened the borders. He's a Ruto man. He opened the borders. You can't even keep chicken in Western Kenya because eggs fly in free from Uganda. Waru, which is a big problem in Central Province. The borders in Arusha are open from Arusha. You go to Kikomba now. The lorries are lined up. They are being offloaded. And we have Waru here in Kinangop and Kiambu. You know, this is a big issue. That people are going out there to talk about it with lies, to me, I think is a wrong thing. Now, let me address something about this so-called third-tier thing, third-tier government, because I think it is being misunderstood. Suppose there were 14 regional governments like we came with from Bomas. It means only 14 governors, even if they were taken without elections, 14 governors can take those positions. There are 47 governors in this country. So that is another misinformation. But let me tell you why I support the so-called third tier. And when Raila said it a few months ago, I was the first one to oppose it. But when I thought about it, I said, I come from Nyanza, Lake Victoria. We do not know as Siaya County where is our border on the lake. We do not know as Busia County where our border is on the lake. We do not know as Migori and Homa Bay where is our border. And you know, you cannot invest in the lake without a proper investment plan. The lake is one. We only have one boundary with Uganda. So how do you develop where I come from without investing in the lake? And how do you do that investment? Bonnie told me in another forum the other day that there's something called economic forums. Those are amorphous things. You know, and Bonnie professes to something called the Luya nation, the Mulembe nation. How do you create a nation without boundaries? Read the meaning of the word nation. You must have a people and boundaries. That is the meaning of the word nation. If you want lawyers to be one, you must support regional government. Let me just finish. Go to Mpeketoni. And I want to address this issue of land. You know, it is better to engage these people from the coast on this issue of land because it is what is dear to their heart. When you talk about Al-Shabaab killing people, no, it is radicalized youth killing Kikuyus. And you must know that. We must engage them. I spend a lot of time in Malindi, and I've asked, after this last attack, I was in Malindi. I asked, people said, what is this thing? If our soldiers are beyond Boni Forest, where are the people coming from? Those people will tell you, these are not foreigners. They are radicalized youth who have been made to think that a country people have taken their land, and they think that they will kill people. Who is the easiest target? It's the Kikuyus who are taken there. Let us engage them through an organized manner, like Raila diffused that thing of Pwani Sio Kenya. We must, and how do you engage people? We are political leaders. We must get a political process to engage people and tell them that any Kenyan can live where they want. But to come on TV and scaremonger Kikuyus that if they have a third-tier government, they are already being killed. The fact that it is not being reported is really it's a government's way of dealing with it. But they are already being killed like chicken. And it is not only in Peketoni. Ask a Kikuyu who lives in Rift Valley what is their fear. Their fear is that every 5 years and every election is an opportunity to be kicked out of their land, which they genuinely got or which they got otherwise, every 5 years. Why are we here, Bonnie? We are here because we want to address the reasons why every 5 years Kenyans slaughter each other like chicken.
Let me get to Jerome on this as well, because that third tier of government is a very emotive subject right there, because people are saying we still talk about some teething problems between national government and county government. Do we need to create another level and now have to start again from scratch? Economically, as has been pointed out, there are regional economic blocks. So if it's in terms of trying to synergize the advantages we have in a region, we can do that. We don't need to create another layer yet again of bureaucracy to go down this particular path. What's your take on that particular issue, devoid of politics?
You know, well, it can never be devoid of politics. It's always a political issue, although I'm not a politician in that sense. But I would say this is Majimboism reloaded. You know, the fact that, in fact, Mheshimiwa has said there'll be 14 governors at the regional level. I haven't, and I've read the document, seen what will happen therefore to the, will they become minor governors reporting? So if you have 7 governors in one region, are they going to report to a super governor, and then you have sub-governors, and then you have the deputy governors, and then you have, so just another layer. But for me, going back to this balkanized way of looking at development in the country is exactly what we don't want as Kenyans. Because then it becomes this region, 14 regions, we had 7 provinces, now we will have 14 regions. Regions, provinces, whatever you want to call it. For me, I'm not for that. We have not allowed devolution, which we agree has severe and major and many teething problems, including even budgetary allocations. We have not allowed devolution in that real sense to work. We are seeing Waititu being impeached here. We want to streamline and say, if you're a governor, you're not here to eat and to loot. You're here to provide that devolved service. But before we have even allowed it to work, we're back again saying we want regional governments. Another layer, another layer there. But I just wanted to say a couple of things, because I don't know if there'll be time to come back to me again. You know, what Mheshimiwa here has said by saying, yeah, this is ODM. I like it. I prefer an upfront, direct, actually this is not BBI. We are in the politics of 2022, and this is an ODM rally. Let us be explicit. When I say the Trojan horse, how the Greeks invaded that city was to have this horse that they said was a gift, it's wonderful and so on, and the people of Troy said, this is amazing. And this horse is a BBI document. We're talking about national ethos, we're talking about integrity, we're talking about this, development, shared prosperity, young people, etc., etc., etc. We're even talking about reforming the IEBC, although I disagree with the pathway proposed in the BBI document. And as soon as you get into this city, you open the steel belly of the horse, and out comes succession politics. So there you have ODM, there you have Kieleweke, there you also have Tanga Tanga, because Tanga Tanga arrived in Mombasa saying this separate thing, where I saw you running faster than Eliud Kipchoge, when you were being denied your constitutional right to assemble, I saw it play out differently in Mombasa, where now Kipchumba Murkomen comes out, and he, in boxing, it's called clinching. You go and hug your opponent because you've been battered, bloodied, etc., uppercut, and you go and hug your opponent. And even while you're hugging your opponent and regrouping, you can uppercut the person. If it was mixed martial arts, you don't even, there's no rules. You can twanga the person as you're hugging them. So for me, Tanga Tanga twanged Kieleweke and ODM by coming to clinch. So at the end, inside the belly of this horse that is now in the city, and this city is this place called Kenya, full of people like me, taxpayers like all of us over here, we are now exposed to the blatant bare knuckle fighting, and we are all spectators watching. Meanwhile, locusts are decimating this country. Meanwhile, health services are not working, and that's why I always go back to Mafia House. I call it Afia House, Mafia House, because of the mafias that operate there. Finally, I'd like to say something about President Uhuru Kenyatta. Again, I said at the beginning, who is advising all of these people? He's repeatedly punching down. When he goes to attack Gunjiri in Bahati, he's punching down. Why didn't he send his attack dogs? When he fired Kiunjuri, he's punching down. I mean, is he trying to tell us that he is officially in his lame duck period of his presidency? So you look at all of these situations, all he is doing is empowering his opposition. And I wonder at what point Kenyans will wake up to realize that that day is a long time in politics. Alliances will continuously shift, and at the end of the day, we'll be left holding 9,600 shillings that I have to pay, that my children have to pay, that my mother, my father, everybody in my family, everyone in your family will have to pay going forward to deal with the excesses of this government. We are praising the impeachment of Waititu. Does that represent the space that took us to the 9 trillion deficit that we have in Kenya. If we don't address corruption at all levels, if we stick to weaponizing the war on corruption, we will go nowhere slowly. So yes, let Waititu follow his process, let him go back to court, appeal, let's discuss the technicalities. But yes, if he's corrupt, let him go. But I want all these corrupt leaders who are purporting to be here for the development of Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta himself was in Bahati seeking votes in 2017 and saying, I'll bring you development. Where is that development he promised the people? And now he's weaponized development as well to say, why aren't you developed? It's because this, your guy here who we think you sent to me is busy abusing me. Is development linked to whether you abuse the president or not, or whether you're perceived to be abusing the president or not? I leave that question mark there in the same way I say, is the war on corruption linked to whether you support the presidential agenda or the powers that be or not?
Gabriel, I'll come to you even as we have 4 more minutes on this particular discussion, because as we talk about the BBI, if you do a spot, you can just talk to, you know, the regular citizen going on their own business. First of all, they ask you very blatantly, what is this BBI? Correct. Because what they get to hear is what Boni Halwale will say on a stage. They'll talk about Sinile Kitu Prime Minister, and that's what it's slowly becoming. Even as we have a steering committee that's trying to validate what the people citizens we said the first time, how do you get them to understand where this is going?
Jeff, by the way, that's a very important question. True to the fact, many people are now, you know, lost in matters BBI. But as we would say, many, you know, Kenyans are now kind of getting lost because politicians are actually directing them to a certain narrative. It is always good to come back to where BBI started, and that's why I would encourage the committee and the people who are really pushing BBI to go back to the 9-point agenda, where it all began. Those 9-point agenda were actually talking about the issues that affect Kenya. We're talking about the ills that actually make us go on our rhythm of violence every 5 years. So that is where the foundation should be. We should build on that. The issue about land, you know, that came out in Mombasa, and this, my personal views, and I believe I spoke about it in several other broadcasts. The land issue, like Dr. Boni has said, is very emotive in this country. I would hate for it to be discussed or to take the angle that it's taking, to be discussed in political rallies. That's not where to discuss issues matters land, because it's going to create fear, and that's a given. We have the TJRC report. We have the Kriegler's Commission report. We also have the Ndungu report. In other words, what I'm trying to say, Jeff, we have policy frameworks that we can use to discuss matters land, not in political rallies. You start discussing it in political rallies, you're going to lose. And when you talk about land, nowadays, it's not only the Hikuis. You have so many young people that I know, from all tribes, who've invested in land, right? Not where they came from. Half of the people in Nairobi, well, they didn't come from Ranga, most of them. You have people from Western, you have people from Nyanza, you have people from Kisii, all across the country, even from coast, who will come, young men who came to Nairobi and they've bought parcels of land, whether it's in Thika, whether it's in Kajiado, whether it's, what does that tell you? When you start talking about historic land injustices in political rallies, what kind of dagger are you trying to push into the hearts of these young men and women? We're talking about building a Kenyan fabric where everybody will fall here to that particular republic. And you cannot do it when you start bringing issues that happened in 1960s, to start being, you know, to create, you know, this element of what I would call, you know, people starting to look at each other with that eye of, oh, this is what happened. Half of the population today don't know about these land issues that we're talking about. So when you use it in political rallies, we are going to lose it. My take on this would be, let us go back to the 9-point agenda of BBI, because right now it seems we are lost. And you remember the president's major concern. He actually has been repeating himself, even as late as of the few days he went to Nakuru. Do not allow the BBI agenda to be taken over by politicians. And as a matter of fact, the American ambassador, the US ambassador to this country, spoke about the very same thing. He said the BBI has so many good things in it. He may not agree with everything that's in BBI, but it has good items in it. The only problem is it is being hijacked by politicians.
Okay. I'll come to Dr. Halwale. We have 2 minutes to go right here. The BBI spirit was to unite Kenyans. What we are seeing right now is more divisions than there were even before. How do you bring it back to a sense where we're actually moving in the same direction? Because it seems like every time it comes up, it's a differing opinion. It's those people have done, we've been left out of this particular venue. How do you bring it back together and focus on what essentially we're all trying to do, unite in the Kenyans?
Easy. Abandon the conversation, debate, and thoughts of those BBI-driven processes. Right from the word go, there are many lawyers who have persuaded us that the process was an illegality. And I can speak authoritatively that there is no single article in our constitution that says to amend it, you have to use handshake, use BBI rallies, and so on and so forth. In those 2 minutes, 2 points. Honorable Jakoyo wants to justify how bad the deputy president is by using the invasion of our market by potatoes from Tanzania, eggs from Uganda, onions and tomatoes. If you want to kill a dog, the easiest way is to give it a bad name. You know, all that you are saying is that you do not know how decisions on trade in the community are made. There are high-level consultations, my brother, between the permanent secretaries of the partner states. Then they adopt a position, they give it to the Council of Ministers. If the Council of Ministers approves, then they give it to the summit. For your information, the people who sit on the summit, the final highest decision-making organ that will allow in these potatoes and so on, the people who sit on it are the presidents of the region, not the deputy presidents. So if you're uncomfortable with Ruto because he's competing your cousin Raila, then please don't confuse it with how decision-making is done in the community.
That's how you have to leave it on that particular point.
I must conclude. We should also debunk this lie that we justify any violence by any youth in the coast against Kikuyus and Peketoni on the fact that people from outside have bought large tracts of land there. I know of a former assistant minister from my community who comes from Thika. He owns 1,000 acres and is a very large-scale farmer. No Kikuyu youth has ever invaded his farm. Thank you very much.
But, Jeff,
very quickly, 30 seconds.
Let me not address Bonnie because it's trivial. Let me tell you something, Mutum. This issue of land in Coast Province, you can't wish it away. You either talk about it publicly, politically, you find a final resolution, because the things which are being said are all in those reports you're talking about. But those are not political documents.
Correct.
The issue has been politicized in Rift Valley.
Yes.
And so the more we talk about these issues, the closer we will edge towards a resolution. But we must tell our people that the leading tenet of our constitution principle that Kenyans can live anywhere.
Correct.
But when people are radicalized, when now what he's talking about, the radicalization happens away from the political limelight. Secondly, Bonnie, you cannot celebrate that somebody has made a wrong decision to flood our market with warus so our primary farmers don't benefit. Actually, let me tell you, Ruto is Uhuru's. I saw him ranting even when Kanini Kega took money to a funeral that is his work. So there is no day Uhuru will commit a crime and Ruto is not culpable.
We leave that particular point of view. We can go on and on this. Of course, it is the News Super Review. You can continue tweeting us at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. The discussion continues online as well. Gabriel Muthuma, thank you so much for making time this morning. Dr. Boni Halwale, thank you so much for making time this morning. Asante Jared say, thank you so much for making time as well. And Jacob Video, thank you so much for making time this morning. Of course, you can continue the discussion right there. Short break, back with Interactive. This is